Amsterdam Institute of Social Science Research is a new research institute that was founded in 2010. It was a merger of a number of different research institutes at the University of Amsterdam. It's very interdisciplinary, so it unites anthropologists, sociologists, geographers, and political scientists from many different countries that all work in Amsterdam. It's very international, so it has international scholars from around the world, and we do research in many different places all over the world. It attracts a lot of PhD candidates also working in all these different fields. And we have been able to attract a lot of funding from national and international agencies.
My work focuses on new or experimentalist forms of governance, particularly in the European Union, from food safety to campaigns for sustainable forestry to financial regulation. Coming into the University of Amsterdam, joining a small research group organized through the AISSR brought me the opportunities and the collegial links to launch this project.
What we do is, in lots of sites and situations, study eating practices to use social science techniques to talk about physicalities. One of the sub-projects has to do with tasting. What is it to taste in practice? Another one looks into swallowing and digesting and shitting. What is this whole process of entering food into your body and what comes out? And for instance, another sub-project analyzes practices in the scientific discipline of ecology. This research we do is not just for intellectual fun. It also has to do with how human beings inhabit the earth, which is fundamentally also always a question of eating and being eaten.
I received a grant from NWO and DGIS for research on conflict and cooperation in fisheries of South Africa and Sri Lanka. In both contexts, we are looking at fisher peoples who are being excluded from policy attention and who are suffering also from the effects of overfishing and from social conflicts. How do you manage natural resource use in such a way that it is sustainable from an ecological point of view, but also socially just and socially relevant?
I'm a cultural sociologist, so I've been doing research on a number of cultural fields. My current project is about beauty, so about the social shaping of beauty standards in 6 different European countries. I realized that maybe things like humor or television or beauty may not seem like the most relevant or politically important topics, but they are very central to people's perception of the world. We are looking at how these images are shaped without being dragged immediately into this political debate. Does everybody become anorectic because of these images? But we try to see how these images are created and what different sorts of people think and how this may impact people in different places in the world.
We've received an EU grant to do research on what we call chance to sustain, which is city growth strategies in fast-growing economies. One of the more strategic issues that we're taking up is the use of spatial knowledge on the one hand and more participatory forms of including knowledge in urban management on the other hand. Now this, because of the growth of ICT-based databases and information, is really strategic because it's assumed that a great deal of knowledge is available to everybody equally. However, the extent to which such knowledge is used in practice is a big question, and also the extent to which different populations can include their community-based knowledge into such discussions, say social political discussions on urban management, is something that we're trying to bring out in our research.
I'm studying inequality most of the time. In this project I focus more specifically on education, which is I think a very important driver of inequality. We study the impacts of educational institutions on various kinds of outcomes. One of them being inequality of opportunity, but another one inequality in labour market outcomes, and the third one, inequality in active citizenship. There's a very strong policy linkage to this project, in the sense that, of course, governments want to know how to organize educational systems. And they want to know whether the way they have organized their educational system helps to promote people to get into the labor market, but also whether it helps to promote chances of opportunities of the lower social classes or the ethnic minority groups.
I focus primarily on electoral volatility. That is the question, why do some people change their party preferences whereas others do not? And this question is fundamentally debated in the last few years, because the Dutch elections, for instance, are now the most volatile elections in Europe. Especially policymakers in The Hague and leaders of political parties have been fundamentally concerned with the question why people change their party preferences so often. What does this tell us about the state of democracy nowadays? Does it mean that people are losing interest, that people are more and more dissatisfied? Or could it be, in fact, that it's the other way around, that people are so emancipated, so very well immersed in the whole political system, that they understand that they can change?
We want to find out why sometimes risk communication makes people worried and concerned and afraid, while in other cases people are getting reassured. They know what's happening, they know they can choose, they know what to do. It matters a lot how you frame an issue. But what we don't know is how that exactly works out through time. People learn about an issue and change their attitude. And this process of changing our attitude, changing a perception, and coming to be concerned or not concerned, that's the process which is under-investigated, and we will bring that to the fore.
I will study, say, changing love and marriage practices in Africa. If you look at the production of literature or the production of knowledge of scientists or social scientists for that matter, you get an impression of Africa as the typical, stereotypical, hopeless continent. There is, of course, much more that countries in the global south have to offer than only research on social problems. What I would like to do is to focus on intimate matters and how they are related to middle-class development.
What we do within this project is focus specifically on the role of prevention and preemption in the European security culture. We have selected a number of case studies where we look at what's happening here. For example, asset freezing is one such example where it's really the objective is to stop the money before it can be used for terrorist planning. There's very little sort of broad societal political debates on these preemptive measures, and that's one of the things that I think our project can contribute to.
The European Framework Research Program each year is bringing forward new priorities. A university like ours can best be prepared to compete in this process by fostering a plurality, a diversity of research specializations.
We need to invest in young people, in new research, in projects which have not yet delivered a lot, but which might do that in the future. And scientific progress, we don't know what is coming up, so we cannot just finance projects which have already shown to be highly relevant.
I'm concerned about the future of social science because this place, where it is at its strongest in reframing our understanding, is not publicly recognized, and it will be less and less financed.
As a leading research institute in the Netherlands, I think it's important to indeed keep an eye on mainstream research, but absolutely keep the niche for more off-the-track research.
I think one of the major strengths of the AISSR is that it's starting from the theoretical debates and purely scientific debates. It's very well able to tackle societal and policy problems. And in fact, it's very well able to undermine myth. We have some great scholars here and they're working on some great topics. And within the AISSR, we are able to overcome our disciplinary boundaries.
There's no reason to decrease funding for the social sciences.